Hey guys, it's Oak. I'm back again with another video. This time I'm going to dive into GSE and all the changes that have been happening as of late. So this first part is just a little bit of an understanding of what exactly GSE is. I know if you've been watching my videos you have a pretty good idea, but basically it's an add-on that allows you to put several macros in essence together in a sequence that you can then spam a single button to go through the entire sequence rotation. But it's not smart, it's mathematical probability, so it's just luck if it actually hits the right abilities at the right time. But with some toying around with it and some playing with the different macros that you can use, you can get pretty good success in getting the right spell to go off at the right time. But it's not guaranteed. It's not smart. If it was smart, then it wouldn't be sequencing. It would be botting, and this is not botting. So with that said, let's go into importing a sequence. So if we go /GSE, click import, we get to our import screen. Then we go to a site like wago.io. So a lot of the creators have started using wago.io to store their sequences. Wago.io added a new section, so if you go to wago.io, go to World of Warcraft, go to GSE Advanced Macro Compiler. There you can choose the class or spec that you're looking for a sequence for, or you can just click Search GSE. For us, we're going to go to our Retribution Paladin. I click on that. Mine is the top one right now. Click on that, and then you'll see up here where it says copy import string. You click on that to copy it to your clipboard, and then you go back into the game. Once you're back in the game, you would just paste the sequence into the import box. Click on import. Because I already have these sequences imported, you'll get this screen coming up. So it says that I already know all three of these. I'm not going to overwrite my AoE, my single target. I'm only going to import the no CDs version. So I'm going to uncheck these two and then just keep the no CDs version checked and click import. And we just wait a moment. And then this screen will come up. So it's going to ask you how you want to import. You have several options. You can ignore the import, which means that you'll just keep the one that you currently have. You can merge the two imports, which it'll do its best to try to merge what's new with what used to be there. You can just make a new sequence by doing the rename, or you can just replace the sequence. What I'd suggest, if there's a new version out, you may want to do a rename and just name it something else. That way you don't overwrite any changes that you might have made to the sequence that you had previously. So to do that, you just go rename. You get the new box here. And I'm just going to go put, this is the name. So Weakaura no import. And then hit continue. It'll bring up your sequence editor, and you should see it pop up here. And there it is. That'll bring you into the next part. So you may want to edit things to your liking. You can do this in most sequences unless the creator has locked the sequence, which I don't think is even a thing any longer. But you just go to the tab. And in this case, let's say you didn't like the alt modifier for turn evil and cleanse toxins. So you would go throughout the sequence and just change every aspect of alt to whatever it is that you'd like. You can use modifiers like shift, you can use control, you can use combinations of the two, like shift alt or shift control. To do that, you just put shift alt, you combine it as one word as if it wasn't separate, or you can do control alt, whatever it is that you like. You can change modifiers in that way. You can change the control key for like the Word of Glory cast or the intercession cast. You can definitely change the Wake of Ashes key for the Hammer of Light. For if you're doing a Templar build, if you want it to be a different modifier, you just change alt to whatever it is that you like. I'm not changing or saving any of these changes because it's basically the way that I like it. I've shown how you can call a macro in other videos, but you can still do that, of course. If you were to call a macro, you would just basically create a macro block. So you click a new block. You'd want to select macro here and put the name of the macro that you're calling. I don't really have a great one to call on my Paladin, but if I do /m, you can pull up the macros. Let's say for whatever reason you want it to freedom. So you would just put the word freedom the same way you have it spelled in here and save. And then you'd have to make sure that sequence is bound, of course. But so we go to keybindings. We'll change that sequence to be this one. So no import, save. So now when I hit that key, it should pop a freedom. And it does. So it's calling this macro from within the sequence. So that's one way you can do that. As far as cast sequences, once again, Paladin's not really a great choice to show it because I don't have any cast sequences in the sequence, but resets don't work within the sequences, so you'd have to call a macro in order to get a reset to work. But the big thing with the most recent build of GSE is the ability to click your action bar. Now, this does not work with ElvUI. So I've tried to get it to work. It does not work. It's just not set up to work with ElvUI. It's set up to work with the default action bars from WoW. So I'll do a little walkthrough of this, but let's start out by showing key bindings with a controller. So if I go to GSE, you can keybind directly to a controller now. So if I wanted this sequence to go off with a controller, I have a PS5 DualSense controller hooked up. I would just click the button that I want to bind, and then on my controller, I'd hit the button that I want bound to the sequence. You see that it called that pad 1. You click save, and it'll work. So now if I hit the X key on my PlayStation controller, you can see it will go through the sequence. Well, it would of course hits the freedom because I just put that in there. But this is me spamming manually, so. But that's how you can keybind directly to the controller. So let's go ahead and back away and get out of combat. Just wait for those dots to fall off. Alright, so we're out of combat. So let's go back to the key binding menu, and you can see these action bar overrides. I'm going to go ahead and delete these so I can just start fresh and show you how these work. But also I am going to go into base WoW, go into my options, and then my keybinds. And on my action bar, I want to bind this to 1. And I also want to bind that key to X on my controller. Alright, so let's get out of there. You can see I don't have anything on here on those keys. That's one key part that you want to make sure. In order for action bar overrides to work, you need to be using the default UI, and you also need to have your input set to key up. So if we go into GSE and we go into the options, if you look at troubleshooting, you see this box here where it says action bar button use key down. You want to make sure that that's unchecked. Another place you want to look is if you use ElvUI, you want to go into the ElvUI options, go into action bars, and then this checkbox here where it says key down, you want to make sure that that is unchecked. So these are two settings that can make WoW choose to activate actions on key down instead of key up. So we're going to make sure that these two options are unchecked. Now, because this does not work with ElvUI action bars, we're going to go ahead and disable them. So we're going to keep using ElvUI, but we're just going to disable the action bars. So just uncheck this, close out of your LVY settings. It's going to ask you to reload. Hit accept. After a reload, we now have the Blizzard default action bars. So let's see. Let's put this on an action bar. So boom, you see that we popped a Shield of Vengeance. So now you have to make sure that your action bar buttons are empty. Okay. And then the way that you would make GSE work with action bar and allow you to click these buttons is you would go into GSE, go into keybindings, and just so I can show that this is how it's working, I'm going to go ahead and delete all of my other key bindings for retribution. Okay, so you see I have nothing bound in here. Now I'm going to click on the new action bar override. These action bar buttons, this is your main bar, so it's action button 1 through 12. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We're going to do action button 1, and we're going to make that ret single target, and then click save. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing for, we're going to do action button 2, and make that ret AE, and click save. And then action button 3, we're going to do the no CDs and click save. So all of those are saved, and we're going to close out of this. Now this is just showing that it works. I'm going to go down here to my action bar and just click. And you can see, if you look at the Weakaura, you can see that it's trying to use that. So it's using the different sequence based on what I'm clicking on the action bar. Now, I don't click very fast. I know some players do use clicking their buttons, and this is how they can still do that. But there is still one issue that we have. If we go back out here, we wait for combat to drop, we want to be able to use that same bar for other stuff like flying. So once I'm out of combat, I'll mount up, and I'll show you that I'll mount up, and I put Skyward Ascent on the 1 key. You see when I hit the 1 key, it still wants to do the sequence. So there's a command that you have to enter in, and I'll put the command on the screen, and I'll also put it down in the description. But you need to change how your action bars work to make it so it and you only have to do this one time. You make it so it changes from SetBinding, which is default, instead to SetBindingClick. Okay, so there's a command. Basically, it's run SetBindingClick. You put the number of the action bar button that you're changing, and then action button 2, and then action button 2 again. So this is changing action button 2, right? So we're going to do this for all 3 action buttons. So I'm going to change it to, say, action button 1. Change this here. Whoops. 1. And then 1. And then enter. And then action button 3. And then action button 3. Then action button 3. When you do that, you can test it out. So now hitting the 1 button or clicking the 1 button will make me do a Skyward Ascent. But if I'm not mounted, if I hit the 1 button, it's going to go through my sequence. So this is the big change that Tim just put in. What's a little odd is it does change what shows up on your action keys. I'm sure that's because of the behind the scenes magic that's happening here. I'm also not sure if it'll work with the controller. And I'm trying the controller right now, and it's not recognizing those controller clicks. So if you're using a controller, it's probably best to just bind it directly with your controller key. You'll also see that one of the things that it changes is when you go into your key binding options for action bar, it shows those keys as not bound now, or F8 in this case. I don't know why it does that. I'm sure it's some kind of behind the scenes thing. Tim could probably explain that a lot better, but the fact of the matter is, if you're a clicker, this does work. So if you click your bars or your buttons, this does work to make it work in a sequence. So and that'll work when you're mounted. It'll switch when you're mounted. You know, so it can answer a lot of the problems that some people have. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with ElvUI. It probably won't work with other Actionbar add-ons. So if you're going to do this, you're basically going to make yourself have to use the default UI. So you can see that we can fly here. We can surge forward with 3. You know, so it does work. It's a great improvement. It's one step closer to what we used to have. It will not show what's down here. If you do want to see the cycle that your sequence is going through, I'll put a Weakaura down below. I modified mine because I didn't like seeing the cycle, but I'll show you what it looks like. I have to rebind my keys to my spam key. So let's go into GSE and then key bindings. Do a new key binding. Make it my left bracket, make it my single target, and then click save. And the Weakaura that it is, you'll see down here. So it'll show which sequence I'm using, and it'll show what ability is going off. So those are the big changes. I'm sure there's probably more that we can go over, but you know, this is really the big things right now. If you have any questions, the best place to put those is at the GSE United Discord or Timothy Luke's Discord. You can go to my channel on the GSE United and ask me questions if you like. I am just one person though, so if I don't get right away to your questions, I will try. Now, there is another setting that you have to enter after you do those console commands. You have to save your bindings. So you'd have to do a console command that is run SaveBindings 1. So that will save your key bindings. So when you reset or restart, or if you exit game, your key bindings will be saved. So, but yeah, once again, thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe. And if you want to be alerted, hit the notification bell. If you have questions or comments, or any recommendations on what kind of videos you want to see, put a comment down below. But thank you again, and have a great day.